Well, the Justice Department says 1 million more documents potentially related to convicted sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein's case have now been uncovered. In fact, in a social media post, the DOJ stated the FBI and the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York informed the agency the findings and could take weeks to comb through. So let's have a conversation about this. Live now to CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, first of all, good to talk to you, friend. So this seems like it's out of nowhere. Critics will call this a stall tactic. What are the consequences for what some say is late disclosure or lack of disclosure?
So there are a couple of different consequences here. I mean, one is political pressure, which we're already seeing. And then the second question is whether there could be any legal consequences. Reed, as you know, and as we've talked about, there was a piece of legislation and it said that you need to disclose all of this information by December 19th. It will come as news to nobody. That is now after December 19th. And so the Department of Justice has really blown the deadline in this case. Now, you can go to court and try and do one of two things. Basically, you can try and say, one, I want the Department of Justice to be punished. But two, I think more to the point, I want them to get this information out quickly. And at this point, the DOJ is saying there's so much there, we're moving as fast as we can, all of which is to say, I think the most likely scenario here is that the real consequence will just be political pressure and you and I talking about the fact that this is happening on television.
Yeah, and we're also seeing a lot of criticism where people are looking at the pages that have been released and there's just whole sections that are blacked out. Is there any recourse for those who are critical of those redactions?
Another really important question. I think those are my two big takeaways from the disclosure so far, which is one, that the deadline was not met, and two, that what we did get is a lot of black. And so the question is whether or not those redactions are proper. And here again, we have the same two routes. One would be either Congress trying to use its inherent contempt power, which it hasn't used in about 95 years, to try and punish the Department of Justice for not providing all of this information in an unredacted form, or at least in terms of fewer redactions. The other, and I think this is more likely, is to try and go to court and say, there are only certain reasons information can be redacted in this case. It's identity of the victims. It is whether or not there's an ongoing investigation. And then there's kind of a bucket other privacy concerns. And so the repercussion here could be going to court and saying, we think these redactions are too broad. That happens a lot in cases. And then you fight about, you have a judge look at it and you fight about whether or not the redactions are in fact overbroad.
Well, and we know so many victims have said, release the records. They've been the ones beating the drum the loudest. Jessica Levinson, always great to pick your brain and get knowledge. Thank you so much. Wish you a great day ahead.